I liked in your video when you said recently about the word flâneur.
We learnt that in A-level English literature, I think, when we were looking at the picture of Dorian Gray. Yeah, like it's a Victorian term of a guy who walks through like cities with no real plan, just observing society and the goings on of people. I mean, it's kind of like it's a fancy word for the idea of people watching, which is something I think everyone is accustomed to, that term, that how interesting it is to just watch people in public places and how you can learn a lot about people's behavior and things from just observing what's around you. Even the most simple, like mundane things can tell us a lot, I think.
Did you have any flâneur pursuits on the way to Switzerland, maybe like in the airport or in Switzerland?
Well, airports are always weird places for that kind of thing, aren't they? They are weird. They're a weird sort of, I don't know, mishmash of society. And yeah, it was funny because when we were heading home, so we're in this small airport in Basel, there was a delay. Well, it wasn't a delay, actually. They didn't open check-in before 2 hours until the flight, whereas usually like at Heathrow, where we flew out, you get 3 hours before the flight to check in. And obviously we've got so much to check in because every one of us has a big bag and a sports chair and a wheel bag and a day chair, and that's like 11 of us. And so when we were going home and we realized we were early and they hadn't even opened check-in yet, we just filled like the whole queue area with all our sports chairs, and then just so many random like Swiss old couples were just really confused. They like hadn't seen that many disabled people in their life and they had no idea what was going on. So that was quite interesting. Just seeing like this old lady smile at us, but really she's really angry because we delayed her checking into her flight because you've got so many bloody wheelchairs. But it's one of those things. And also I find it interesting, I guess the best way to answer that question that you asked was when people are coming onto a plane, because we're wheelchair users, we get put on first. So we're all in our seats on the flight when the rest of the like flight customers come on, and it's just watching people with this kind of frustrated look at how long they've been waiting in the airport, and like people that maybe have been traveling a lot so they look really tired, or people that are really excited because they're going on an adventure, some sort of holiday or something. It's like there's such a vast array of people and emotions going on, and we're all just being crammed into this metal tube that's then going to go 30,000 feet up in the sky, and everyone's just okay with that. You know, it's rarely that someone freaks out on a plane about what's happening, but really, if you really think about it, it's worthy of freaking out over. So it's interesting.
Did you have a smooth flight? Do you like flying?
I did, actually, yeah. It was probably the smoothest I've ever really had. I mean, it was really quick. It was like an hour max, I think, because you literally just go like over France and you're there. But now, very smooth takeoff and landing, no real like turbulence and shit. Like it's yeah, pretty smooth, man.
I do think airports are quite deep places. Like there's a lot of like emotion of, oh, I'm gonna leave you, bye, and then, oh, it's so good to see you again. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna give you a lift, and it's like there's a quote that's like, ambulances have seen more. No, hospitals have seen more prayers than churches. Airports have seen more tears than therapy, or something like that. Which is interesting. Makes you think, and you get all sorts at airports. It's a changing of states place, and then and there's always like one person in the family who's scared of flying. Like my mum's quite scared of flying, and you got to kind of. I used to be scared when I was a kid because my ears would hurt, and I'd get like like pop.
Popping, yeah.
Yeah, so then I'd have to have a sweet and that would calm me down a bit, but I used to get quite scared of flying.
You give him a sweet and he'll calm down. I like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, bringing up English, A-level English Lit again, but my A-level English Literature teacher would call an airport a liminal space, which is a term for a place between two things. So like purgatory is a perfect example of a liminal space, kind of between where you are now and where you're going. And there's a lot of uncertainty and adventure around a liminal space. I think if you take the time to notice what's going on around you, you can learn a lot about human beings, I think.
And in these flâneurs who existed a couple hundred years ago, what's kind of the purpose of it? Because like it's nice to people watch, it's something to do, but you don't really achieve anything. Like if that's the whole thing, like what is it about it?
Well, I think the Victorian Flâneur was like this idea of a very I don't know, a person from the aristocracy who had more money than sense and a lot of free time to just wander about observing people. And so I guess the purpose of it is to just frolic time away, observing the social situation around you. Probably back in those days, you're feeling morally and wealth-wise superior to these people, and sort of, I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? But I feel like we're so deeply social creatures. We do get a lot from observing people if we can be present enough. Like, I feel like if you remember from that video where I talk about that, I talk about a family that I watched. Actually, that might be the next video that's not out yet. But I was at a premiere on my own, like fucking seem to be always these days, eating breakfast, and I saw this really happy family of like 4 kids and their parents and their grandparents all together, no iPads, like laughing, chatting. I was like, this is nice, and I got a lot of joy from that. Like, so I don't know.